everybody. Hey, welcome to the second episode of the GVL Music Podcast, presented by Poe Mill Music on Pinckney Street, or Avenue. I'll probably have to check that street sign again, but great studio and venue. We've had a blast here so far. Really enjoyed doing this podcast. Episode 2, I believe I said. I want to thank everybody who listened to episode 1. First of all, we got a huge response. It was really gratifying. I just really appreciate very much that people seem to be excited about it. I also wanted to throw in that I did not mention in the first episode that the episode was over. So please, if you are still listening to episode 1, it is over. Please move to episode 2. So we're going to be talking today with Zach Thigpen, who is the guitar player and singer for a band called the Grateful Brothers. This is really interesting to me because I think the buzzwords you'll hear a lot is tribute band or jam band, and I don't think either one of those are fair going into this entirely. What they do is they do cover Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead songs, but, and this I think is really key, they do what I think the Allman Brothers of the Dead would want them to do, and they bring their own thing to it. They improvise like those bands would. They do fresh things like those bands would. They've never played a song the same way twice, either of those bands. And I think, so it's more of a tribute to the spirit of what those guys do. I want to introduce, this is Zach talking to us today, Zach Thigpen. My first question, how did this get started for you? When did the band start?
Yeah, so thanks, Vince. Thanks for having me. And I will echo, very excited about Poe Mill. This is a fantastic spot, really key part of the up-and-coming Greenville kind of venue revival, if you will. You know, we kind of had a lack there for a while and got kind of a resurgence, so good to see that. So yeah, I was telling you before we got started, We've actually come up on our 10-year anniversary of this band. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Pretty crazy. You know, we didn't really have that in mind. We were kind of counting the years last year, and we're like, oh my God, we're coming up on 10 years. So, man, how it got started, it was really just kind of a fun late night text exchange with my buddy Brad Crow is how it got started. And, you know, I was a big Grateful Dead guy and he was a big Allman Brothers guy, and we kind of crossed over a little bit, but you know, I think he had watched the Fare Thee Well shows, and he's like, man, I finally get it. You know, I caught the bug. And so I think that night we were texting and we were like, man, what if we did a tribute? And he's like, well, let's do Allman Brothers too. And then we came up with the name that night. And, you know, I was like, man, there's no way that name's available. It's too good. So we Googled the name and we're like, nobody has that name. So wow. I bought the domain and the LLC and you know, the story as we tell it is we came up with a list of everybody we wanted in the band, and we called all those people and we got all of our first choices. Some of those have switched in and out, and you know, Brad's no longer with us. He'll still show up and play from time to time. You know, Matt Fassis took over for him several years now. I don't know how many years that was, maybe four years ago now or so.
Yeah, talking about that, give me the lineup now. Who's playing in the band?
Yeah. So it's me and Adam McFarlane on keys and James Hall on drums. So, and we're all original to that. We've been there the whole 10 years. Sam Kruer's on bass. Sam's been with us, probably 7 years, so he's been there a while. Larry Williams is on kind of second drum kit to James. He's been there about that long. And then Matt Fassis, like I said, Matt Fassis is on the other guitar with me, 4 or 5 years there. And then Jeff Holland's been there the whole time, and Jeff kind of comes in and plays some shows and some bigger shows or this and that. So we kind of rotate out the drums so we don't, you know, two drum sets and percussion is a little much for certain venues. Right. So we kind of switch that in and out. So that's the lineup these days.
Well, especially if you've seen Jeff's percussion setup, which is very Neil Peart-esque. It is quite a setup. He's an amazing percussionist.
Absolutely. We love Jeff.
So let's talk a little bit about how you perform. Do you do, and just a little heads up, the Grateful Brothers stripped down trio version is going to do a medley of West LA Fade Away and Hotlanta later in the show. They did record it before, but I'm showing you too much behind the curtain. But it really is an amazing medley, and so I wanted to ask: do you do medleys, or do you typically do them separately? Or how do they fade? They work into each other.
Right. So I really appreciate what you said at the top. The way that you described what we do is really how I think we kind of separate ourselves. Not that I love all of these bands I'm about to mention, but you have Cosmic Charlie's going to like take a Dead show and like do that show, and Dark Star Orchestra does that sometimes and things like that. So those are great bands, and they both jam plenty and improvise, but we really try to not be a true tribute. Like, we're not trying to cover these songs. It's really...
It's not recreation.
Yeah. It's really... And honestly, for me, for better or worse, as a musician, that's the only way I can do this for like 10 years. I tell people, like, this is an excuse to play these awesome songs, but really just improvise with my friends, that are great musicians. That's really what I try to focus on. Use those songs as a jumping off point, almost like a jazz mindset where like the song is like the head, and then you go do whatever, and then come back to the head.
Yeah.
But as far as mixing and matching them up, I write all the set lists, and that's really a labor of love too. And I really do like segueing in and out of Dead and Allman Brothers songs. Not exclusively. Sometimes we'll do a Brothers song back to back, or a Dead song back to back. But usually I'm looking to go one and the other, and write some fun segues between them. Because a lot of times I'm sitting there writing, and I'm like, ooh, I bet nobody's ever done, this or that.
The same way they would have thought.
Right. So that's what keeps it fresh. And, even if it is something that we've done, set list wise before, that doesn't mean it has anything to do, the jamming and the playing are certainly always going to be different. I think we came into the studio for what did we do? West LA and Hotlanta, and I said, do you guys want us to play for like a 6-minute version or a 20-minute version? Because it could be one or the other.
I did not realize there were different options.
Yeah. We can take it out as far as we want to, which... that was another, this will be kind of a segue, but one of the other things with moving people in and out of the band, like we were talking about with the lineup changes, and really for me as a guitar player, with Matt and Brad switching out, it's not that anybody's not a great player or better than the other one. It's really just a familiarity that it takes with playing with somebody for so long that is the real adjustment period. So it's not like, there's not any kind of technical ability issue. It's if you're going to play and improvise with people, you need to know them really well as a musician and know what they're going to do and be able to follow each other and listen to each other. So it's been a fun journey.
A fun decade.
Absolutely. A fun decade. And it's also just really fun because we're genuinely all friends in this band. So it's, you don't just show up. We just got back from Charleston. We were all hanging out together all weekend. We played at the Poorhouse. So it's fun to be able to do these kind of things and hang out with your friends at the same time.
I'm glad you mentioned the Poorhouse because I want to get to that in a minute. But I wanted to talk about, as much as people think that this is a common sense kind of thing, the Allman Brothers jammed, the Grateful Dead jammed, should go great together. The jamming was very different. If you listen to the Grateful Dead, there's a lightness, a kind of psychedelic feel, jazz, a more jazz feel. The Allman Brothers were heavy, and it was, it's a darker kind of music. So First of all, I'd like to ask what you see in common with the two, and then how do you navigate that? Because they're very different styles.
Yeah, they really are. And the more you delve into this kind of stuff, the more you understand the nuances of those things. But I think the overarching idea is still the same. Great songs with a willingness to take them out and improvise. I do think the Dead, are more willing to like leave the song form than the Allman Brothers were. The Allman Brothers, they're gonna play, but it's a little more of taking turns soloing, kind of jamming, whereas the Dead is more moving as a unit.
It's a lot more collective.
Yeah, moving as a unit. So, we respect that in the form, like if we're going to play whipping posts, there's going to be 2 long guitar solos like there are, and it can still kind of go wherever it goes, but, maybe not quite as loose as some Dead tunes, but we don't necessarily, once again, adhere to that.
Right.
We still are kind of leave the option open to whatever happens. But yeah, once again, I also think that keeps it fresh for us, because we don't. Not that I'd get tired of playing Dead songs, but like when I'm done, playing Friend of the Devil, I might get to rip a whipping post solo.
Right.
So it's cool to have both.
So it
juxtapositions.
serves two sides of your musical personality.
It does. Yeah, it really does. I like playing a hot blues guitar solo, and then I also like, wandering around improvisational wise with my buddies and seeing where that lands. So
I hate to do the what are your favorites, but what songs do you enjoy playing the most on stage?
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard because it changes all the time.
Is it ever based on the venue? Is it ever based on where you are? Kind of the feeling of the crowd, or...
Maybe. I definitely think about, like, it was interesting writing some set lists, because we played some private parties recently, some like birthday parties and things like that, which is great. And then I'm also writing the set list for a 2-night run at Charleston Poorhouse. Mm-hmm. So like those are two kind of different things. You've got kind of... You don't necessarily want to go super deep at somebody's birthday party and like scare everybody. So, maybe there's a little bit of a greatest hits kind of thing to that. But then you go somewhere like the Poorhouse and, everybody's ready to go. Mm-hmm. So like you can
take it wherever you
go
want it.
Way off the deep end and all that kind of stuff. So maybe a little bit like that, but I really like playing. We've added Hell in a Bucket recently. I really love playing that song. It's a really sneaky, tricky song.
From Built to Last? That's like the last studio. Or is it from In the Dark? It's one of the last two records.
It's on In the Dark, yeah. I think. I don't know. I don't really listen to the studio versions.
Right. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to bring up the studio versions
that's
to a
fine.
dead Allman Brothers fan.
I do listen to the studio versions when I'm learning them, but it's not like crystallized in my head which album everything's on. That one's great. Cassidy's really cool. There's some like cool harmonic movement that happens in Cassidy that's kind of, different than some other tunes. I've always really loved Come and Go Blues from the Allman Brothers. I like the kind of chromatic movement in that one. It's really fun to play. But Liz Reed is super fun. The hits are the hits for a reason. I like playing Uncle John's band. There's certain Dead songs that are, if you try to explain how to play it to another musician that doesn't know it, there's these little rhythmic things. Mm-hmm. You almost have to like fully internalize those songs and like have it playing in your head in order to play it back. And that's kind of one of those. It's fun.
Do you have to have two drummers to do this right? Because both of those bands had two drummers. Yes and no. I think really no. You don't have to. But I think that's another thing that sets us apart. Some of those tributes do have two drummers and some of them don't. Both those bands had two drummers.
So I think it's appropriate to have two drummers. I also like the just the size that brings to it. It's a big sound. We're a big lineup, two guitar players and two fairly aggressive guitar players, and then you got two drummers to back it up. And
I feel like it might bring a heaviness to the Grateful Dead material and a lightness to the Allmans. Do you feel like that?
Sure. Yeah, it can. It certainly can. But once again, we're kind of whichever way the wind blows.
Right.
So it's nice to have. It's a big palette of options. So it's always there. Whether necessarily the song needs two drummers.
Right.
It's there if we need it.
So you mentioned the Poorhouse a minute ago, and the reason I wanted to get back to that is I saw you, I think it was pre-pandemic, Fall for Greenville. Mm-hmm. Turned the corner to your stage, absolute sea of people. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of when I knew this is maybe getting bigger than even they expected it to get. And now you're able to tour or do residencies, which we'll get to in a minute, or do 2 nights down in Charleston at the Poorhouse. Tell me a little, if you would, about what you're feeling in the connection with the audience and where that sort of swell of appreciation is coming from.
Yeah. So I definitely remember that Fall for Greenville show you're talking about. It was a little bit of a turning point. We'd done some good gigs up to that point, but there was like 3 straight blocks of people, and we're like, okay, like this is we're connecting with people. So those have been good, and then actually post 2 years ago, I think we played down at the Peace Center Amphitheater the last time we played Fall for Greenville, and it was also the most people I've ever seen down there. It was wild. So shout out to Fall for Greenville. Thanks, Josh. So those have been great. Yeah. Let's see. As far as, the Poorhouse is really another one that we've really put in the time and the effort. When we first started, we would go down there and we would play the deck for free. Not for free, but it would be a free show. And run our own sound and all that kind of stuff back when they used to do that on the deck. And then we finally did enough shows there to get inside, and we were actually the last weekend that March of COVID before they shut down inside shows, because we were like, nobody knew what it was at that point, and we were like calling people on the way down, and we're like, are we going to do this? And we did, but I think there was like one more show inside, and then they shut that down. So then they pretty quickly, they did such a good job of navigating COVID because they realized they had that outside stage.
Right, that's right.
And they added production out there. You used to have to do your own sound and all this stuff, and they put full production outside and all this stuff. So we kept playing there through COVID, and then moved back inside, and sold it out sometimes inside. Not every time, but when the winds hit right, we would sell it out. And then this last one, we decided we wanted to do 2 nights. So we did 2 nights out on the deck, and that was really fun. So it's been fun to have the the ramp up from the early days there, and be committed to doing that. But this is going to be a love fest for the Poorhouse here. But I love that venue so much. They do such a great job down there. I wish they would. I wish they'd do like a, put on a seminar, like here's how to run a venue, because like they just do. They're so fun, but they're professional, and they really have, with the improvements that they've made outside, they really have 2 full-fledged venues in the same place. The outdoor capacity is 350, inside's like 450. So I mean, and you can end a show outside and immediately start a show inside.
Sometimes I've kind of seen their same time. Sometimes,
they do a great job. So that's been nice. But we do tour a little bit. I've kind of actually pulled back a little bit and done a little more stuff in Greenville this year. But we're still in the weekend warrior category. Right. Most of us have day jobs, and a lot of us have kids and things like that. So, we'll do Athens and Asheville and Atlanta and, what have you, and go down to Charleston.
So are you seeing older fans of those bands? Are you seeing young people that are getting into the music? Who's out there, and what are they telling you? Because these crowds seem to multiply overnight almost.
Yeah. I think that's the great thing about this music for both of these bands is that you see all of it. You see old heads that were there back in the day, and then you see, young kids, whether it's their kids or their grandkids or just kids that love this music. It's really the full gamut. And, we're somewhere in between. So that's really nice. And
so you can pull from everybody.
Yeah, we certainly pull from everybody. It's great how you always want young people at shows. Young people are good for art. It's a good sign if you got young people. But really the thing that I love is when, some old head or Allman Brothers fan pulls you aside and says, that was amazing. I saw them this, and that reminded me of when they did this and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that really, hits your heart.
Of course. Yeah.
So that's cool to hear from them. 'Cause, I was, how old was I? I was like, 8 or 9 when Jerry died. So I didn't see Jerry. Saw plenty of the, the offshoots afterwards with the original members other than that. So, but, from somebody that wasn't, there for the real thing. I saw the Allman Brothers a bunch of times,
right.
The Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks and all that stuff.
So to hear that from somebody who was there, I can't even imagine. It's a huge honor.
It'll kind of take your breath away sometimes. It's pretty cool. So those are fun moments.
So let's talk about the residency here at Poe Mill.
Yeah.
And what that allows you to do. Knowing you're going to be, is it monthly or weekly?
Monthly.
Okay, and that begins in August, correct?
Begins in August, yeah. Okay. So we're going to do the first Wednesday of every month, starting in August. Okay. So hot off the press announcement.
When you're, I don't have the teletype sound, unfortunately, but when you're able to do that, when you know you're coming back, and when you're already dealing with two bands who anything could go in the show, what kind of freedom does that allow you?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm hoping because we haven't started yet, but I'm hoping that we'll, be able to. I want to add some new songs each time. Kind of treat it as a little incubator for that kind of thing. But yeah, there's. It's fun because we can iterate on it. I was talking to Doom about this. Like, if something works well the first month, like, cool, we'll do that again. Or something doesn't work well, pivot and try something different. Or, we're gonna hopefully do video and record audio and throw that stuff up on YouTube and, make that as good as we can. And I have an idea of, a guest every once in a while, we'll have like a featuring, whoever, local, cool.
A fourth drummer.
No. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly what we need. It just does allow a freedom to try stuff out while still doing what we do. It's always going to be a Grateful Brothers show, and people can count on that. But there is a little bit of leeway when you know that you're coming back, and all right, well, let's try this. Well, that didn't work. We'll try something different next time, or that worked really well. Let's do that again.
Yeah. So let me finish up by saying that Zach has another project as well, and we want to talk about that. Cash Machine, a band that I really like, is about to come out with a new record. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Thank you. So we have we've been working on this for maybe a year and a half. So it's been a while that we've been working on this album. Very excited to have that come out. We've just finalized mastering. Actually, I wasn't here because I was in Charleston with the band, but they came in to Poe Mill and ran it through some of the console for some mastering this past weekend.
How about that console?
The gear here is fantastic. It's a really nice setup. So we're getting that. We're going to send it off. We're going to get the vinyl made.
What's it called?
It'll probably take. So it's Cash Machine 2.
Okay.
We're just numbering them.
Nice. In the spirit of Queen and Led Zeppelin.
That's right. Yeah, Cash Machine 2. So we're really really excited about this batch of songs. It's a true evolution of the band. The first album's great. We love that first album, but I think when you listen to the first one, the second one back to back, it's a natural progression of the band, and really, really strong set of songs
Nice.
that we're all very, very happy about. So, look for, I'd love to come back and talk to you when we drop it, and, we'll announce an album release and all that fun stuff, probably in a couple months. Usually takes a couple months to get vinyl pressed.
Okay. Well, Zach, thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for talking to me about this.
Yeah.
Let's give a little intro to the medley that we're about to hear. The two songs that you've chosen to sort of meld, and why?
They're in the same key.
That was supposed to be a way more artistic answer. We're going to cut this whole thing out.
No,
go ahead. Sorry.
We've done this. We've done these two songs together before, and just kind of popped in my head today, and I said, "Hey, let's do this." All that being said, there are some considerations, technical constraints. It's me and Adam and Sam in the studio here.
I should note that this is a trio version. Zach's playing guitar and singing, Sam Kruer on bass, and Adam McFarlane on our baby grand piano.
That's right. So some of the James Hall, our drummer, sings most of the Allman Brothers songs. He's very much the Greg Allman, and then the rest of us take turns across the rest of the repertoire.
Right.
So the first I think we had talked, and he said, let's do a Grateful Dead and an Allman Brothers song. My first thought was, well, I don't sing too many Allman Brothers songs. So that's when Hotlanta comes in, because it's an instrumental. So that works.
Are you thinking, I sure hope the Allman Brothers have some instrumentals.
Yeah, right. There's a couple I could pull off, but so anyway, as much as it's a nice artistic pairing, there are some technicality reasons and practical reasons why we chose those two as well. So,
well, listen, thank you again. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so we're on all the socials and all those things, but thegratefulbrothers.com. That's really kind of the hub. That's got links to everything else. So if you just want to go to thegratefulbrothers.com, it's got shows and links to merch and all that fun stuff. And we do have a Radio Room show coming up June. Is it 16th? Let's make sure that we're correct on the date on that. Sorry about that. I should have had that pulled up.
It's okay. And now a dramatic pause.
Yeah, wow. I'm wrong. June 13th. June 13th. So
June 13th
that's
at the Radio
Saturday at the Radio Room. And then the residency here will start the first Wednesday of every month, starting in August. So.
Well, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. I can't wait to. I was in the studio for this medley. It's great. After the song is over, the podcast is over. Thank you very much for listening. Please don't make a 51-year-old man say smash that subscribe button again. I'm already sweating a little bit. But please, if you like this, listen, subscribe, tell everybody about it. Again, the response for the initial episode was fantastic, and I cannot thank you enough. No matter what happens from here, thank you so much for responding to this in the way that you have. Thank you all very much, and we will see you next time.
Hello, this is Zach Thigpen, and I've got Sam Kruer and Adam McFarlane from the Grateful Brothers. We're going to do a medley of West LA Fade Away and Hotlanta. 1, 2, 3.
got to move. You got to